join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. If the secretary would please note the roll, and then I would need a motion to excuse Commissioner Kish, Commissioner Maloney, and I don't believe Vice Chairman Barnes is on the phone yet.
I am on the phone.
There he is. Okay, we got him. So if I can get a motion to excuse Commissioner Kish and Commissioner Maloney, please.
I motion to excuse Commissioner Kish and Commissioner Maloney.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Milton, seconded by Commissioner Walters. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Move on to the minutes. Approval of the August 17th, 2016 minutes. I'll take a motion for that.
Motion to approve the minutes of August 16th.
Second.
I second.
Moved by Commissioner Keys, seconded by Commissioner Milton. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay. At this time is citizen comments. So are there, now's the time for citizens who would like to address the Planning and Zoning Commission on any non-agenda items. Are there any speaker cards? Perfect. Item number 6, ex parte communication. Is there any from the commissioners? There is no old business. Therefore, we will move into new business. And I will open the public hearing on the city-initiated rezoning of approximately 40 acres located on the southwest corner of Cotton Lane and Indian School. And this one is Steve. Yep, Steve will present to the commission. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, commission members. This is a rezoning of city property. Well, apologize, I'm not getting the mouse to move, but we are located here at Cotton Lane and Indian School Road, southwest corner. It's about 40 acres. Surrounding the site, we have mostly it's Palm Valley 303, generally industrial uses. To the north, we have another planned industrial park. To the northeast, we have several existing industrial users there. This is the site, this 40 acres, the former Duncan Family Farms agribusiness. The city did purchase the property in 2003. And at this point, the city is looking at economic development opportunities in the area with the surrounding properties all zoned industrial. It seemed a ripe time to rezone this property to something similar. Property, let's see. Property is, according to the Goodyear General Plan, the 2025, it has an industrial land use within the loop-compatible land use overlay, and that overlay is designed to protect Luke Air Force Base. It does restrict things like residential uses within this area. Property is zoned agricultural right now, with the corner, right there at the hard corner, a portion zoned commercial C2. And this is showing you that the property is located within the accident potential zone 2 for Luke Air Force Base. And again, what that means for us, state statute prohibits certain uses within the accident potential zones. And you probably saw those within the staff report and within the stipulations. And this is the I-1 use list. The request is to rezone the property to I-1 light industrial with a PAD overlay. The uses on the property will be per the I-1 zoning district, the city's zoning district. This exhibit shows you that several of the uses have been crossed out. Those are the uses restricted by state statute because it's within accident potential zone. The PAD overlay, that is generally designed to get a modification to the building height. Currently it's 50 feet in I-1. This request is to go to 75 feet. We've found that certain industrial users do find that extra height attractive to their storage inside the building, so that's something we wanted to be consistent with. The other properties in the area also allow that 75 feet, so we were being consistent with the surrounding PAD heights. Luke Air Force Base, we did send this request to them for review. They have reviewed the land use, the proposed industrial uses. They did review the additional building height that's requested, and they have sent us, I did not have a chance to put it in this packet, but I did receive a letter from them approving the proposal with certain conditions, again, being compliance with the state statutes, which we assured Luke that we would have those stipulations taken care of. To date, as a public hearing, we have sent out notices to surrounding property owners. We have not received any public inquiries or opposition to this request. We are requesting, or we are finding that the rezoning is consistent with the general plan land use. We do find it compatible with the surrounding area, and we do find it consistent with the state statutes regarding Luke Air Force Base. And we are recommending approval subject to the stipulations in the staff report. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions from the commissioners? No. Yes.
Steve, you indicated in your introductory remarks that you thought the timing was right. Could you give a little more context to that?
Mr. Chairman, commission members, we've had success. Our economic development staff has had success bringing users to this area. And it seems like there is interest in this 303 corridor. At this point, me personally, I do not know of any formal interest in this parcel, but if there is, we would like to be prepared for it. The 10303 Business Park has been in the last few years, in and out, sometimes inquiring. We figured that with this property zone ag, it isn't quite, it would be better if we had it ready. So when the time, if someone was interested, it would be ready.
I appreciate that. That answers my question. Thank you.
Any further questions for staff? None. Is there anyone from the audience that would like to speak? Speaker cards? No. Chris?
Mr. Chairman, Commission, if I may, we should have introduced, and it's on me, I'm sorry, Michelle Laurie, our Economic Development Director, is in the audience this evening. So if you have any, to Commissioner Walter's comments, if you have any other particular questions, Michelle would be happy to help answer those. This proposal that comes before you, as Steve discussed, is city initiated, and it is a partnership with our friends in economic development and development services, and getting things compatible, because our experience, and Michelle can certainly support this, is when there is a user, the time frame is incredibly short. So we want to be tee it up as best we can. So, and thank you, Steve, for your work on this.
Michelle, is there anything you'd like to?
No, only if I can answer any questions that I was just kind of.
Any questions for Michelle? Very good. Thank you, Michelle, for coming down, and we appreciate you working with our staff on this issue. I think it's forward thinking. With that, I will close the public hearing, and I will take a motion from the commission. Anyone?
Move to approve case number 16-200000002.
Is there a second?
I second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Keys, seconded by Commissioner Milton to approve this case. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Steve. We will move on to item 8.2, and I believe Alex is headed to the podium for an Estrella parcel 11.C, and I will open public hearing.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the commission. Good evening. If it's all right, I'd like to combine items 8.2 and 8.3 since they do relate to the same development of Lucero.
Yes, please.
All right. So Lucero, if some of you may remember, also known as Community 11, was approved. The PAD was approved this past summer in June of 2016 by council. So tonight we're moving forward with the preliminary plats for two of the parcels. Parcel 11B, which is, oh, that doesn't work. Is the one a little bit north, and then parcel C is a little to the south. So parcel B, is the parcel that's closest to the commercial parcel that's within the Lucero development. Just to the kind of northwest side of that will be the Welcome Center that includes the sales center and all of that. I don't remember if everyone was here, but it will have the closest access to that commercial parcel. Lots 10 through 17 are on that northern end, the kind of pop-out lots. Those will be the model homes of the first phase, and so the sales center is directly connected to that and accessible through that little alley or little walkway between the area. The parcel includes 100 lots on about 27.39 acres. These are utilizing the 47 by 115 lots and that were approved with the PAD. There are 3 lots, 14, 15, and 16, that do have a 52 by 120 foot minimum, and those are to just show the variety of product within the Lucero development with the model home. So they are part of the model home complex. 2 entry points are lead into the parcel as required by city standards. With this phase, engineering did approve or recommend approval of the Hillside Drive, which is the main drag that's in Lucero, and that'll connect to all parcels, so that does need to be developed first in order to access all parcels moving forward. For parcel C is a little bit further south, as we noticed in that first aerial. It is the closest one to the park site. This parcel has 91 lots on 26 acres. Lot sizes are 52 by 120 as approved by the PAD. 168th Drive, which is that little on the northwest side, there's a little one-way road that is curved around the neighborhood green to provide access to those homes. Kind of a creative way to lay out the parcel. Parcel B and G, Parcel B also has these neighborhood greens that were developed and included in the PAD, which kind of add to a passive space to create more of a neighborhood atmosphere within the Lucero community. The development standards for the preliminary plats have been accurately addressed per the city code as well as the PAD. We do recommend approval. I have some amended stipulations for you that I'd like to recommend approval, and I can hand these out. So we are requesting approval subject to these amended stipulations because we've been working with Newland and engineering to kind of revise them. There's nothing significantly changing. It's more points of clarification. I'll hand these out. So this concludes my presentation. I can answer any questions regarding the stipulations, regarding the project, and Newland is here tonight if you have any questions for them as well.
Thank you, Alex. Is there any questions for Alex on either 8.2 or 8.3 of the agenda? No? Would the applicant like to speak? And you've seen the amendments and you're okay with the amendments? That's, any questions for the applicant? None? Okay, with that, is there any, speakers cards on this particular issue? None? Okay, I will close the public hearing on both 8.2 and 8.3.
Chairman, I'm sorry. I just wanted to clarify. The stipulations are the same amendments on both parcels. So they're the exact same stipulations.
Okay. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate that clarification. With that, I will take a motion on 8.2 first.
I motion to approve case number 16-500-0005.
Before we do a second, would you also include the amended stipulations with your motion, please?
Yes, I include those.
Is there a second?
I second that.
It has been moved by Commissioner Milton, seconded by Commissioner Keys. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. We will move on to item 8.3. We've already heard the presentation, and I will ask for a motion on that, please.
I motion to approve case number 16-500-00006, including the stipulations.
Is there a second?
I second.
Moved by Commissioner Milton, seconded by Commissioner Keys. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Alex. We will move on to agenda item 8.4, and Alex is presenting on that, and I will open the public hearing on 16-500-00008.
Thank you. This next parcel is a the next item is a preliminary plat for Paseo Place Parcel 2. Paseo Place is located in West Goodyear, which we did discuss last month at our meeting. There are two parcels within the Paseo Place development. Parcel 1 is just to the northwest of that parcel 2. Parcel 1, both parcels were approved in April of 2015. Preliminary plats do expire if the final plat has not been submitted within a year of approval. Parcel 1 final plat was submitted before that expiration date. Parcel 2 hasn't expired. And in order to file for the final plat submittal, they need to get reapproval or should have filed for an extension of the preliminary plat approval. So tonight we're asking for essentially a reapproval of what was already approved back in April of 2015. The documents, the supporting documents as well as the preliminary plats are exactly the same, and staff recommends approval.
Is there any questions for staff? So just let me get this straight. Is they could have filed for an extension, but something happened and now we're reapproving what has already been approved?
Thank you. Yes. So typically, if before the expiration happens, they would file for an extension for an extra year. So if they needed a little bit of extra time to file for the final plat, to get all their ducks in a row to actually have a final plat submittal, they missed the deadline due to some working out some issues with RID and the cities. They were working on the development agreement, so a lot of different things were happening, and they didn't file for the extension in time. So in order to move forward, yes, we're looking for a reapproval.
Just for my knowledge, I guess, does the city somehow inform them that this deadline's coming up so that we don't have to go through this?
Thank you. Yes, they did come in for a pre-application meeting regarding both parcels prior to the expiration. There was just some miscommunication, and they thought there was a little bit more time that they had. So it wasn't exactly clear between the city and the applicant. So in order to move forward, we chose this route to reapprove the preliminary plat to get them to final plat.
Chairman, if I can interject just a little bit,
Please,
I
Katie.
think what you're getting at, the short answer is no. We have to admit we don't have a process where we're automatically, have maybe like a tickler file that we're kind of saying, oh, this is about to expire in 30 days. That's something that we are looking at, trying to figure out how can we do that so we could be more proactive with our customers. So I think that's what you're trying to get at.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. So that I mean, I'm sure Alex had better things to do than redo work that has been done and somehow make it easier for the applicant. But yes, I think that we should look into.
Yeah, I agree. We would love to look into that because it impacts not just preliminary plats, but the final plats and use permits and site plans. Most of our approvals do expire, so we would like to try and take a more proactive approach. Since we don't have that in place now, that is why we try and work closely with the customers. So when these things happen, try and get them through the process, since there's an opportunity for improvement there. So,
Thank you, Katie. Appreciate the explanation. Any further questions for staff? Is the applicant here? Any speakers cards? Nope. Okay, with that, I will close the public hearing and I will take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, my motion is to approve case number 16-500-0008.
Second.
I second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Walters, seconded by Commissioner Milton. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate that. We want to go through everything and then we'll adjourn and go into that, Katie, or?
we'll do it under staff communication.
Okay, so we have reached
Yeah.
staff communications.
Yes, and I'm gonna, as we talked about last meeting, we had two parts to the presentation we made. So we're going to be giving you the second part. I have another staff communication. So while I'm talking, I'm going to go ahead. Do you guys want to set up? We're going to move the podium and invite you to come down so we can sit around the table. But while we're starting to get set up there, I do want to bring up, we were looking ahead at our schedule, and the December Planning Commission meeting is currently scheduled for December 21st. That's the third Wednesday of the month. So we'd like to propose to the commission that we hold that a week earlier on December 14th, the second Wednesday. Just because of the holiday schedule, we assume that people will maybe be traveling, have visitors in town, and it might be hard to get a quorum at a December 21st meeting. So there's no action the commission has to take because our bylaws don't set a specific date for the meeting. So I'm just going to put that out there as a communication. If anyone foresees an issue with that, let me know. Otherwise, we'll tentatively plan that our December meeting will be held on the 14th. And we'll get some reminders out there because I'm sure we'll forget as, when we change something as we get closer, but hopefully that helps.
Planning ahead, appreciate that.
So with that, that's all the communication we had. So we just invite you to go ahead and come down and have a seat. And we're going to get the board out so we can do part 2 of our presentation.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to step off at this point.
That'd be fine, Commissioner Barnes. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Hello.
How are you, Joe?
We didn't wheel those in.
I apologize. We had the table set up a little differently last time, and because they're holding court next door early in the morning, we weren't able to steal the tables this time. So we are going to throw some pictures. So when we get to that point, we'll just ask you to kind of adjust. And so we're just going to ask, appreciate your understanding and being a little flexible. So you might remember last month we set the stage that the planning and zoning staff held a retreat so we could explore some areas of the city and look for areas for us to be more proactive in our planning to try and achieve the goals set forth in the general plan and the community's goals for the city. Last time we talked about the West Goodyear area. The other area we looked into is this area that's before you. It's mostly the city center, ballpark, including the development complex and portions of the Bullard Wash. Again, when we started looking at the city, trying to look at areas where we might want to delve into with the staff, this area really stood out to us because there's a lot of projects going on. Obviously, the ballpark is a huge asset for us. And we've had experts. We had a group from the Urban Land Institute come in and talk to us about the importance of trying to spur activity in this area to help the overall success. And then, of course, we've heard from our residents time and time again that they want to create unique destinations. They want destination places, entertainment venues, recreation venues. And so this seems like a really great opportunity. So staff really took a look and, tried to think, how can we start spurring development? What could we do? Kind of like the last time. What do we have influence over? What are some things that maybe we're dreaming a little bit? So with that, I'll go ahead and give it on to Karen and Joe, who took the lead in looking at this area.
Thank you, Katie. I'm going first. So I'm Joe Schmidt, the long-range planner with the city. And what I'd like to do first is set the boundaries of the study area for you to orient you. Basically, we have Van Buren here up on the north. It's just off the map. Can't really see it, but it's there. We have Bullard Avenue to the east, Elwood and Bullard at the south end. That's at the bottom of the map. And then this western edge is basically midway between Estrella and Saraville, more or less. And as Katie indicated, the reason we selected this area is that a lot of it is undeveloped, but we are starting to see renewed interest in some of the parcels, and we thought it'd be a good time to take maybe a second look at some of the plans that had been prepared previously and see if we'd like to influence it in any different direction. So the first thing we decided was that the areas that are developed are fixed. We're not trying to encourage redevelopment areas. We have Estrella Vista subdivision here. We have Centera over here. Wildflower is up over here. We've got the airport, which is a huge asset. We're not looking at trying to change anything about that. So, and then of course we have the ballparks and the stadium down in this area, and then Desert Edge High School over here. So those were kind of fixed things that we weren't really going to try to change and just take into consideration. So then we thought, what could we influence to create a destination or create activity in this area? And one of the things we talked about is that every great city has a great central park or a central gathering place. And from Lincoln Park in Chicago to Central Park in New York City, more locally, Tempe has Kiwanis Park by the river. Peoria has Rio Vista, the Tempe Park is about 125 acres. The Rio Vista Park in Peoria is about 54 acres. And if you're familiar with Steele Indian School Park in central Phoenix is about 75 acres. And so we felt that the opportunity for City Center and the surrounding area could build upon the presence of the baseball stadium, but also take advantage of the fact that we own roughly 100 acres here in this area that had initially been talked about as a potential university site. But since that time, we've committed about 11 acres in here to a charter school, and we felt like what was left remaining, about the 85 contiguous acres, would really be a great opportunity for, say, a recreation center and an aquatic center, active recreation areas like ball fields, and even some passive recreation areas that in this central park could be a focal point for the community and attract people into this area all year long. The baseball stadium does a pretty good job of trying to create year-long interest, but then this would be another facility that would contribute to that. The roughly 30 to 40 acre city center piece is still appropriate for City Hall and potentially a library, but there's other public uses that could potentially go there as well. Maybe the universities that we were talking about on this site a startup site for a university could occur within that quadrant. So we wouldn't necessarily lose that initiative. And since we still control the property, we can do that without, any other private sector involvement. We own the property. In addition to that, there's a lot of undeveloped property in this area. It's been calculated that there's approximately 1,800 acres really in the area of running from the ballpark up to I-10. That is non-residential land primarily because of its proximity to the airport. And so the city tried to reserve land off the end of the airport for non-residential uses so that the mission of the airport would be preserved. But by comparison to other destinations that you're familiar with in the valley, Kierland Commons, which is a location that a lot of people talk about and like to emulate, it really sits on only about 25 acres itself. And there's more built around it, but the core of it is really only 25 acres. And so there's opportunities in the other quadrants around the city center to create that type of an activity and build upon that. Mill Avenue area is only about 120 acres. And so there's opportunities to create a destination of that type within the context of what we have here right now. One of the things Katie mentioned briefly, that ULI came through and did some evaluations of the city and made some recommendations and pointed out a few things. And one of the things they noted is that we have a lot of property set aside for non-residential use and commercial use. And as I said, some of that is due to the proximity to the airport, which is a good thing. But, it creates a lot of competition, I guess, amongst property owners for the sole users that might be interested. So, but to create a destination, we don't need that 1,800 acres. We just need a core area of less than of that, and it's available to do it in the city center area and along the Bullard corridor. And with that point made, I'm going to turn it over to Karen, and then she can talk a little bit more about the vision for the area and how it might evolve or change.
I just want to interject one thing just to make sure you know. ULI, the Urban Land Institute, for those who might not know, that is a professional organization made up of land developers, like real estate brokers, basically the development community who works mostly on the commercial industrial side, the residential to master plan community development. And we invited them to come to the city and give us advice on what we could do. So they're experts in the field. They're the ones who would be finding the users to go on a piece of land. They're the experts to know why is development happening here and not happening there. So the Urban Land Institute, ULI, is an expert organization.
When did that happen?
I think it was 2013 or 14,
probably
maybe
2 or
early.
3 years ago.
Yeah.
I think so. And hello, I'm Karen Craver. I haven't met you folks before. I'm another one of the planners at the city. Good to meet you. Glad you're on the commission. In keeping with what ULI had told us as a professional organization, we recently had a residential developer come to the city, and they are Community Southwest. And they purchased the property down here just to the west of the development complexes. And they also purchased some of the vacant property up around the ballpark that the city didn't own. And they too agreed that the approved office development zoning that was designated here on this property just wasn't going to happen because, office and commercial, we're trying to get that up by the mall. And as we said, you can only have so much of it within a certain area, and it's otherwise it's not going to get absorbed. So they've submitted a PAD amendment to us to change the office zoning in that area to residential. And they're also proposing to locate mid to high density residential in this area. And, they're business people. They also see that by having more people in this area, more activity in this area is likely going to happen up around the ballpark, and they own that property too, so they're hoping that with people will come entertainment type developments. Exactly. So we, as Joe had mentioned, the city, own this quarter of the city center quadrant areas, and another developer, Sun MP, they're longtime property owners in the city. They own these 3 quadrants, and what we're suggesting is that we also work with them to change their office and business park and hospitality type uses that's approved within their zoning to, again, more residential development. We're trying to get people in this area, and we've had some initial meetings with Sun MP, and they seem very enthusiastic about that. Again, they're developers, they're business people. They understand that probably what's more appropriate in this area is bringing in the people to live here. At the same time, we'd probably put some support type commercial uses along here to serve not only the residents here, but people who may be at the park, people who may be at the university. And we don't want any of the big regional commercial development happening there, but just local type neighborhood commercial uses. And we'd also talked about right now, there's a lot of access points onto Estrella Parkway, and we think it would be a good idea if these quadrants were accessed off of Goodyear Boulevard. That's the road that goes around by the post office and where the apartment complexes are. It's the road that goes over to Basis, and we rather see all these quadrants access off of that. And then again, you can keep the traffic flowing on Estrella. And another reason why we want to provide so this is traffic here and maybe more pedestrian access to Yuma, believe it or not, by putting some parking on there to serve that local retail. And then also the Maricopa County Trail System will develop a trail along the southern side of Yuma. So again, more people coming through here. And then that trail will also connect into the Bullard Wash, which is our big idea. We are really focused on developing Bullard Wash. We're thinking that all these residents that we're hoping will be living in this area, it's going to be high density residential. They're not going to have their own backyards and whatnot, or not much open space of their own. So we're thinking they'll need some place to just get outside, get some fresh air, do some running, walk the dog, exactly, walk the dog. And we're even talking, maybe the city could develop some sort of linear dog park here along the wash. And then we're thinking that, as the people who live in this area use the wash, the other residents in other areas of the city are going to see that happening, and they're going to come here because they're going to think it's a nice place to hang out. And, it will be public property, so the more people, the merrier that want to come and use it. And then we were also thinking, well, okay, so we're going to have people in this area all the time, so maybe some small business owners in the city would want to have some sort of opportunity to do some business and serve some of those residents. And, it may start out as food trucks. It's going to be a little bit of a time before people can make an investment in brick and mortar restaurants or cafes or whatever, but it could start out as food trucks right in this area along the wash. And then, we've got a lot of city workers that maintain the Reds and development complexes. We've got city workers that maintain the ballpark, and I think they'd love to have opportunities to be over here and have some lunch at one of the food trucks and whatnot. And again, we're thinking opportunity for small business, maybe some bike sharing programs that somebody could set up bike sharing opportunities to, ride your bike up and down the wash. If you're not a runner, I'm not, but I wouldn't mind getting on a bike and pedaling a bike or something. So, that sort of thing could happen in here. And then again, more people brings in more types of commercial development, we think. And then again, after, some of the success of the food trucks, then maybe somebody with a little brick and mortar business might want to invest and have something permanent in there. And, we realize we're in the desert, but we were thinking maybe we could have our own little Goodyear River walk before we knew it, that there could just be all sorts of stuff happening along there. Yeah. And then also Joe had mentioned about the proximity to the airport. Well, we started thinking that there's a lot of people who like watching planes take off and land. You go to different airports around the country, and there's always people parked outside the perimeter of the airports just watching them land and stuff. And we thought, well, why not take advantage of that? Why not try to figure out how to provide an amenity here, an attraction here? And we've got the company that works at the airport, Aero Turbine. They take old commercial airplanes and retrofit them for like cargo planes, I guess. So we thought, well, maybe we could hook up with them and maybe we could get some planes from them and some old planes, and we could set up some sort of plane park along here. And, Joe's got pictures where we've seen other cities that just, they turn all these old planes into recreational facilities and restaurants and whatnot. And we're just
Science Center around. Baltimore at the Inner Harbor has a science center, and actually it's a great attraction. Basically has different exhibits on. It's educational, so it could be aviation, it could be technology, STEM related, even getting the schools involved, and then they can do exhibits and competitions and so forth at the science center. But it's constantly turning over the different exhibits and so forth.
That
it's
sounds
a great
cool.
draw to the Inner Harbor in Baltimore is the Science Center.
That sounds great. And we're talking about attracting universities here and basis school and same sort of thing
get the
then.
Schools involved too. STEM has great, robotics, aviation, those kinds of things. It could be a good takeoff.
Yeah.
of the Air and Space Museum. I don't know if you contacted the Air and Space Museum, but they may have some ideas themselves. There's Air and Space Museum down in Washington, D.C. proper. But they made a big hangar. Has anybody been out there? No. Out in Virginia, and it's a good, I'm going to say, 30 miles away. But it's a draw. Huge. And it's a hangar. And what do? They have different planes,
Yeah.
And they do education as well. So we may get ideas there.
Oh, that's a great idea.
To be able to do it. And especially if you're looking to develop a tech corridor of sorts, with whether manufacturing, airplane manufacturing, or whatever, there you go.
Yeah. And You're right on to our next part of our dream, because
Oh,
that's
Karen,
that,
go.
that's
I'm
what,
dreaming
yes,
with you,
dream with
baby.
us,
I'm
dream
dreaming
with
with
us,
you.
picture this if you will. Yeah, that's what we thought, that yes, this could be a phenomenal amenity for the residents that live in the area and the residents of the city. But at the same time, we were thinking that, Fortune 500 companies love this sort of thing. Google, we've got pictures of Google, how they spend so much of their time outside. And we just thought if companies came here as prospects, our economic development department, Michelle, who was here earlier, her and her staff could take them out along this developed area, which is, here's Bullard Wash, here's Bullard Avenue, here's all this land that can be developed. They wouldn't necessarily look at this as an amenity, but they'd see it as some place for their employees, they wouldn't see it as a Goodyear resident amenity, but they'd see it as some place for their employees to go outside and eat lunch, for their employees to go outside and have meetings, and for their employees to run and bike on lunch hours or after work or do outside yoga. We think the development of Bullard Wash would be such a phenomenal investment by the city for the city residents, but it would also be an investment that would bring great economic development opportunities to the city by providing an area here for these companies to locate that is like very few others within the valley. So, yeah, we're dreaming. We're dreaming big. And
I like the tie-in to the airport.
yeah.
Just like the presentation we had last time, there was a tie-in of the dream with what was already there versus trying to fundamentally change what's there. And here you have the airport, and you can tie that into the vision. So I think that's really smart.
Thank you.
It seems like that's what successful communities have done. It's when they don't try and artificially recreate something, but they're authentic to, hey, this is what's here, this is our history, so let's work with it. And that's when you create something really, really cool. And I want to add to Karen and Joe's presentation. I'm sorry, were you done?
Yeah.
Okay. That this is the really exciting part, because the 100-acre-ish park just north of City Center has been, the planning for that has been in our CIP, and so has been an aquatic center and recreation center. And City Council recently moved those up, but there was a thought that those two facilities could be located elsewhere. And the Parks Director has been hoping to expand that park. It was planned as a 30-acre park. So Karen and Joe made this presentation to City Council a few months ago, and it is now a 100-acre park with the recreation center and aquatic center planned at that location. So we're very excited, because we were already able to impact a little change. And it's really exciting because there's a lot of opportunity for savings with, sharing restrooms, sharing parking lots. We're having the park and those facilities next to each other. So that's what's in the CIP, is those two facilities in the 30-acre park. That leaves about 30 acres for future park that's not budgeted yet. And it's also exciting for the Planning Commission, because the Parks Department is working. They're going to be putting an RFP on the street soon to get someone on board to start doing planning and site planning for those park amenities. And the Planning Commission is certainly going to be involved. There's going to be some community neighborhood events to get the entire community's input of what should be there. So we'll definitely, as that starts happening, let you know what's going on. But definitely when we get more of a solid plan on paper, that'll be coming to the Planning Commission, so you guys can give your official formal input into those plans. So projects like that don't come around all the time, so it's really exciting for this to be happening now, and for the commission to be able to work on this project. So as soon as we know more information, we'll share it with you. But it's a really exciting project. It's so fun to be able to work on an amenity project for our residents. It's been a while since we've been able to do something like this, but it's also really cool to see that our planners actually impacted the planning of the park, and we're going to have a larger park because these ideas were brought forward.
And to tag along with the CIP projects, for a while now, council has thought that they should be spending some CIP money to expand Bullard Avenue. And they looked at that also as an attractor for these businesses that we'd like to have come and locate in the city. But I think we're kind of swaying them with our plans here that perhaps maybe the CIP money could go towards the development of the Bullard Wash, because these companies, when they come to locate to a new area, they're used to having to do road improvements. They're used to having to dedicate some of the land for the right of way for the road. They're used to having to construct, a lane or two of the roadway and whatnot. But for us to say to them, oh, could you give us some money for expanding this wash here? Could you help us build Goodyear Riverwalk? It's not necessarily going to fit with their business model. But, if the city could do this, then maybe these companies would come in, see this, want to locate here, and doing roadway expansion would fit in with their business model. So that's another goal of ours, to kind of change where monies are directed, and hopefully it's, something that's going to help create both an amenity and that economic development engine for the same dollar. We're hoping so.
That's a really exciting area, because it's an area we've heard from council of, there's a lot of distribution centers coming in, and we love them, and we have lots of places in our city for them. But Bullard Avenue is somewhere that council's expressed they would love to see some higher density employment. And the Bullard Wash, I think, is something that could actually make that a reality. Like, why is this area different than other areas in the valley? And that amenity could be it. So, again, it's really cool. And again, it's cool to look at those examples from Google, because a lot of times we think Bullard Wash and we automatically let's look to the Indian Bend Wash, for example, for inspiration. And it's cool. Hey, if we want this to be an employment corridor, let's look to Google for our outdoor space planning examples. Let's do something unique. And so it's really, really fun and exciting.
Thanks. We enjoyed it. Yeah.
Thanks for the opportunity to share it with you.
What's the next steps?
Well, one thing I think on this project, and a little bit on the last one, is we would like to get more involved in the CIP as planners. So we're hoping to, it doesn't mean that next year all of a sudden all these Bullard Wash are going to show up in the CIPs, but we're looking at how we can get planning more involved, in the general plan and some of those things involved in the CIP. So we're starting to talk about that internally. Again, a big part of this particular project is that 100-acre park is going to start moving. So we're actually going to see a new project. Karen mentioned, we're already working on the planning with the property owner of the area near the development complex. And then we're looking again at kind of similar to the other presentation on West Goodyear on, can we start working with the property owners of the areas around Bullard Avenue and the city center to do some rezonings? Because again, that's something the city can offer. Could we help with the processing and the rezoning in exchange for working toward this shared vision? And of course, the vision would evolve as we work with those property owners. So we're just trying to figure out how could we build that into our work program of starting to talk to that. As Karen said, we work with a lot of these landowners on other things, so we're already chit-chatting with them.
This with some of the landowners as well, right? And they are very supportive.
We have the Sun MP folks here. They get what we're trying to do, and they see it as adding value to their property as well. They've had the same zoning they've had for quite a while now, and nothing has happened. So I think they get that perhaps that's not the right zoning. So, yeah, they're being cooperative.
Yeah, their current zoning right now has residential predominantly in this quadrant, but no residential in these quadrants to speak of. So for us to say we would consider residential in those quadrants from the city's point of view is a big change in the position. And they were very receptive to it.
This is a little off topic of what you guys are talking about, but in the 100-acre park area, that's actually a little bit more current as something that's going to happen. It'd be nice to see the city be a good example of a solar user, because that's one of the great benefits if a company's thinking about relocating or establishing here versus somewhere up north where they don't have the resources we have. I think it's great to see us put that in place and show how that works and why it's great to bring your business and your employment to Arizona.
Yeah, we're finding a lot of the companies that are here already, like Macy's and Amazon and whatnot. They're adding solar to their buildings to generate their own electricity, and yeah, it's a big draw. It's a big benefit to companies. So yeah, we should promote that as well with the new ones coming in. That could be very useful for them.
On the CIP situation, is that the city manager and then the council votes on those projects?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, it's a pretty complex process. Involves most of our CRP projects are actually run through our engineering department through the project managers at the engineering department. So they're the boots on the ground. Like they're running the new police station facility that's being constructed. So there's input from the project managers at engineering. They provide the technical assistance, coordinate with A&Es, architects and engineers on procurement and things of that nature. It also goes through finance, obviously from the budgeting standpoint, and then the prioritization of those projects is through the city manager's office and the city council. So the prioritization is management and council. Finding the money is a collaboration between engineering and finance. And so what Katie was alluding to is us working with our sister departments, if you will, and advancing these ideas, which are pretty impactful for our community, and working to help get those prioritized in a good manner, in a good way. Does that answer your question?
It answers my question, and I guess I'm a little surprised. I would have assumed that it would have been your shop and economic development that were driving that process a little more, or working closer than the engineering folks.
Historically, most capital improvement projects, or many, I should say, roadways, sewer, water, that type of things, facilities. Yeah. So those are typically engineering heavy projects, which is why I think historically that's resided there. And we have a fantastic working relationship with engineering. We're not fearful of that at all. I mean, they're just like right on the other side of Joe's office. So it's no problem for us to work with our sister departments in engineering. We're just happy to have the opportunity to advance the prioritization of some of these projects.
I'm glad that you guys took that deal, because I mean, I've worked with a few engineering folks, and I think their thought process is a little different, in that I would think that the planning side would be much more instrumental in all of that.
All right.
Well, as Katie said, we've kind of inserted ourselves
Which I'm
into
glad, yeah.
into the parks planning. They need a plan for that park. Here you are, we're planners, and so we've kind of inserted ourselves into that. And I think they're very receptive. The recreation department is very receptive to that. So, we can kind of dovetail with them, I think, to get more involved with the CIP process. And as we said, council was very enthusiastic about this. So again, that's inserting ourselves into the CIP process. So hopefully as time goes along, it'll be a broader effort than just engineering. So we're trying. But in terms of working with the other departments too, that's something, you would ask what some of the next steps were. We will need to work with our engineering department to possibly change the norm of having all these curb cuts on Estrella Parkway and focusing the curb cuts over here. We'll need to work with our engineering department to change from the norm of having Yuma be kind of a fast flowing road and trying to put some on-street parking there. So yeah, we're all we're all working together and coming up with some new ideas and new ways of doing things. And I think the other departments are like what we're doing as well. So hopefully it'll move along.
Well, what's exciting is that we own this property right now. So that's a lot of other projects that we have in the CIP are missing pieces. And even if you had the money today, you couldn't build it tomorrow because you don't have all the right of way. Actually, Bullard Wash is part in that situation right now. We don't own all of the wash that we need to own to do the project. But in the parks instance, though, we could build that tomorrow if we had design and funding. So, because we own the property. And the Central Goodyear it has grown and will continue to grow, and it needs a community park facility.
You had started out talking about was it Urban Land?
Yeah.
Institute? Is this the kind of thing that you would circle back with them and get their input on, or was that a retained kind of arrangement that you had with them at the time?
That event was they basically I forget what they call it, like a community assistance team, where they volunteer their time and come out for a few days. So that was a specific event. Right. But again, I mean, we have contacts with a lot of those people where, again, more informally, hey, what do you think of this? And we can definitely get their input. And we could even think about having an event, not that formal necessarily, but inviting some of the folks out there to come look at this and give us their thoughts on a plan like this. But I mean, the number one thing they said was we need to concentrate people. Our plans have previously kind of spread out the things instead of creating, and we're just to get us started, we need to create some activity centers. So they were saying, let's really focus here and then really focus at the mall site. But to kind of be planning here and here and here, it's just too spread out when we're such a young community like we are. So that was a lot of their advice. Anything we can do to get more people in this area, they'd say we're on the right track.
I would have to agree.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, before we adjourn the meeting, just a couple of updates for you.
Please.
May I share? At the last meeting, the commission voted to recommend approval to the council on the learning experience daycare facility, and that did in fact go to the council and was approved. There was some conversation at the council level in terms of the fencing facing it's on Litchfield, isn't it? I believe. On Litchfield and the bollards, there was some concern that maybe an errant car that hopped the curb may go through the fence and to where the kids were outside playing, but they're putting bollards up against the fence to prevent that from happening. So that was already taken care of, but fundamentally it was approved. The cell phone tower by the hospital was also approved by the council, and the staff-initiated zoning text amendment that, again, we collaborated with our friends at ECDev on was also approved by the city council. So that was all three positive things. If I can talk for a minute on just two other topics real briefly. I think it was Commissioner Keys brought up what's the next steps on some of these things we're talking about. And actually, Katie and myself and our building official, Randy Westacott, collaborated over the course of what seemed to be about a month and a half, but probably wasn't that long. Maybe we just had a lot of fun doing it, right? On our department's strategic action plan. All the city departments have developed strategic action plans. Our department, Development Services, has two primary divisions, planning and zoning and building safety. So that's why Katie's planning and zoning and Randy's obviously building safety. So we came together to put a prioritization together on the projects that we want to execute within the next 3 years. And so we have a schedule, we have the projects, and we have defined responsible parties. And so we will share with you in the next Planning Commission packet the sort of cut and paste of the planning initiatives that you'll see coming before you. Obviously, we have limited resources, people-wise, monetary, budget-wise, so we can't do everything that we want to do at the same time. So, which gets back to the scheduling and how do we manage ourselves appropriately. So we'll share that with you so you can have a sort of a look behind the curtain and anticipation of what's coming. And then lastly, if you all probably heard I guess it was last year, the U.S. Supreme Court had the Reed versus Gilbert sign case. Steve Careccia is project manager on revising our sign ordinances, been working with outside legal counsel on that through the city attorney's office. We are getting pretty close to having the final version, and next month we're scheduled to do a work session with you to walk you through the changes that are required as a result of the Supreme Court decision, but also proactive changes that are being made in response to some council directive. So that'll take place next month in October. And so that's what we have, and we look forward to seeing you then.
Was the church situation resolved?
Yes. Yes, it was.
That's my voting place, and I thought I saw some stuff going on over there. So
I'm
curious.
The council did vote to approve the driveway connection for a certain time with some stipulations, is my recollection.
Yeah, I believe it was only on Sundays.
Yes.
I can't remember off the top of my head, but they limited the time.
That's correct.
Were the residents still pretty upset about that?
Um,
Was that like did we reach a compromise? Because I know didn't we bring in a mediator?
We did go through a mediation process that was not as successful as we hoped it would have been. But the council did make a decision, and I think all parties involved were glad there was a decision finally made on it. I don't think everybody was totally happy, but I think there was a decision made on it. So
Like the definition of compromise.
yeah. We haven't heard of anything since the driveway's been constructed and installed, I believe. I haven't been by there personally to look at it, but that's what I understand, that they did go through the permitting process and did build it. But we haven't fielded any concerns or complaints or anything.
Thank you. Anything else? With that, meeting adjourned.
Thank you.